What's going on, guys? Rob from the Razor's Edge here, and today playing around with my Progress razor. Had some issues trying to get this thing up to a nice fine keenness, and I was playing around on natural stones yesterday, and no matter what I did, I just could not get this thing where I wanted it. So I was talking to Sean Staplefeld and Eric, the Cajun Blade. And Eric, more or less, suggested that I bring it back to the synthetic stones just to straighten out the edge. This is my Ninoa Advanced. This is the 3000 side. The yellow at the bottom is an 8000. And lap this thing nice and flat with my 1200 Atoma. And it really honestly did not take long for this razor to start seemingly fixing itself. So basically I'm going through the 3000 progression here, and I'm probably going to jump to the 8000 after this, and then I'm probably going to bring it back to some natural stones, probably my cauticles, and then or a cauticle, and then probably my Thuringian, and I was going to go to the Water of Air after that, or I can use my arc, whatever. So I just figured I'd jump in there and show you guys what I've kind of been dealing with this razor. I've only shaved with it once, didn't really agree with how well it was shaving, so I took it to the stones yesterday, like I said, and I think I went through 2 full progressions and just couldn't get it where I wanted it. And that's when Eric said, do yourself a favor and try to bring it back to 0 and clean up the edge with a synthetic, and then bring it to your natural stones. So that's what I'm doing. As of right now, the bevel looks pretty good. I had taped it, the spine, untaped it. Now I taped it back up after I flattened it out to the factory bevel, which would obviously be with no tape, and figured I'd just run it from there. So just basically finishing up this bevel set, and then I'm going to flip the stones and bring it to the 8000, and then I'm going to go natural. So figured I'd take you guys for my journey today, and maybe we can all learn something. As usual, I want to thank Eric and Sean for constantly giving me good advice and good guidance. Anytime I have an issue, I ask them their opinion. I ask John, JPO, his opinion. And they all just give me really good advice. So I just want to thank them for being awesome, because they've been very, very helpful. So just ordered myself a set of, well, not a set, but 4 of those G7 Shapton glass stones. Heard nothing but good things about them. I have heard some funny things about the bigger versions, but the smaller ones, haven't really heard anything bad, only good. So figured I'd order myself a set of those today, and or at least the sizes that I want. And I'm gonna check those out when they get here. And the funny thing about Eric's advice, to go back to the synthetics for this particular blade, it's kind of bringing me back to my roots, because this is where I started. This is the first stone that I bought. Then I bought myself a 12K synthetic, also a Ninoa. And so going back to synthetic stone for me, you know, feels kind of normal, kind of natural. So I had no problem going back to these stones. Now personally, I don't like a synthetic edge on my face. I feel like it's pretty uncomfortable. I definitely like a natural edge. But if this will straighten out this razor and allow me to get a nice keen edge on it, I'm all about it. So figured I wouldn't bore you guys with resetting the bevel on that 3K. So as you can see, I pretty much finished up that progression, part of the progression, and just jump right to the 8K. I'm really watching my undercut on this particular blade because definitely was not getting great undercut on my naturals yesterday, no matter what I did. So the funny thing is, when I took the tape off and got a little bit of spine wear, the spine wear looked even. So it is a silver steel. I figured maybe it's just, you know, a little bit harder, but it can't be much harder than my stainless steel. So this particular side of the stone doesn't like to grind down too easily. So gotta take my time with it. You can see it's cleaning it off here, but not so much here and here. So I like to go until all those marks from the hone wear kind of come off evenly. Eric also suggested a couple of other synthetic stones that are a little nicer than these ones. We were talking about it, and one thing about these advanced stones, and even the 12K Ninoa that I have, that's a super stone, and they're pretty soft. They stick easily. If I'm being honest, they're not the greatest synthetic stones, but they'll do the job. So I can tell just by the markings that are still on this that this wasn't completely lapped flat. So pardon me as I grind away on this thing for a second. And this 1200 at home is starting to get pretty worn in. I've used it quite a bit. So it's a possibility at some point I might have to get a new one, but as of right now, it still works. So I'm actually going to pull out the 400 real quick just to grind that thing down a little bit. It's been a while since I used these stones, especially this side, so I probably should have lapped it flat before I took you guys along for the journey, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. Just going over it with the 1200 real quick. I'd say as of right now, that's close enough for me, so. Just get a little bit of slurry on there, nothing crazy. Like I said, this is an 8K, so you don't really need too much slurry in my opinion, as far as where the razor is at. The undercut is already much better just from doing that little bit of lapping. You can already see the stone polishing up the edge pretty good. You can also see how quick the synthetic stones build up that swarth, you know? They cut pretty good. Got a couple different packing peanuts over here too. I'm kind of playing around with to test this edge, so I'm just gonna check it real quick because I don't think we're too far off from. So I've got these super lightweight packing peanuts, and it looks like it got wet, so it's all soft. So that's not gonna help me much. Yeah, it's just going right in. So. Yeah. Alright. So at this point, I think I'm going to switch back out of this. I feel like that edge is pretty well cleaned up. I'll lap this flat and straighten it out later. Just dry it and put it aside for now. I'm going to bring this over to the La Gris caudicle. And I know what I was getting for an undercut yesterday, so if this is showing good undercut and it stays that way, I know that this thing will hone up properly. So I'm just making sure my caudicle's flat, which it looks pretty good. On caudicles, I do not use the slurry from my diamond stones. I used to until I saw the microscopic pictures of what your slurry looks like between using a diamond stone and a slurry stone. So I always get rid of that slurry from the diamond plate and then do a fresh slurry with a slurry stone. And some people might ask why would you go from 8K back down to, you know, a heavy slurry on a caudicle? And it's comfort level. I just want to make sure when I'm shaving with this thing, it's not going to be very harsh, like synthetics have a tendency to do. So yeah, already the undercut is already 100% even. So I think Eric was very correct in telling me that I should go back to synthetic, just to straighten out that bevel, straighten out the razor just a little bit. So I'm pretty much gonna just dollar cut this this blade. Because I already did the synthetic progression, I'm not pressing too hard because it's not like I'm trying to reset the bevel. So that's pretty much already set from the synthetics. So now I'm just basically trying to put a nice comfortable edge on this thing without going too crazy. This is already a night and day from yesterday. I was having a real hard time getting a nice even undercut, and I can see today that it's seems to be going much more smoothly. Eric has never steered me wrong. He's been doing this for a while. He's got great advice. Always checking that tape. If it starts to deteriorate, I'll retape it. And I'm actually thinking I'm going to retape it because it looks like I took a little piece out of it. So give me 1 second here, guys, while I switch this tape over. Sorry, I got those dish pan hands right now. I just washed the dishes and now I've been playing with water for a minute now. So my hands are pretty damn clean. I feel like I'm starting to lose my undercut on this side. This side's still pretty good. One thing I did notice about this razor, I put the calipers on it to check the thickness of the spine versus the height from the apex to where the spine rides on the stone to get my bevel angles. And because I was thinking about doing a convex hone on this. But as usual, I consulted Eric and Sean, and the numbers just kind of didn't add up. So we decided basically that this was not the type of razor to play around with convexing. So I know bringing it back to the caudicle from the synthetics is going to bring it back a little bit. Yeah, it's taking just like a tiny bit more pressure to pop through, but you can see, I mean, it's popping through pretty easy. So I'm basically just going to do some water passes now. Lightening up, not pushing so hard at this point. And I can see, I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera, but I'm definitely getting much better undercut today. Yesterday the undercut was awful. It just wasn't even. It would be sharp here, dull here, then it was sharp there, dull there. And this razor has a little bit of a belly, but not to a point where I have to like rock it too hard or anything like that. I can pretty much go fairly straight on the stones, and it seems to be holding that connection all the way across pretty well, so no need to do anything crazy. Just be consistent with those passes. That's all I'm trying to do right now. pretty much just going for a nice glassy feel at this point, making sure that my undercut is staying even as I do these passes, and that's pretty much all I'm doing. I would say I'm at the mid-range part of the honing on this particular blade, where not too much more needs to be done. So, but this is one of those razors where it's not like a Boker where it's just gonna easily do what you want it to. Sometimes, you know, you gotta give it a little more thought and consult a couple people that know a little more, that have been doing it longer, and try something new, you know. I put a video out not too long ago honing on my natural stones, and I had someone come into the comment section and more or less just ask me what the grit rating was for these natural stones. And I told him, I said, there really is no grit rating. I mean, if you're talking this particular caudicle, for example, I would say somewhere in the 5 to 10K range, you know, depending on what you're doing, whether you have a slurry, light slurry, water, soap, oil. But I would say with a caudicle like this, you're going to go anywhere between 5K and maybe even lower. You might even be able to get down to a 3K, because I mean, I set bevels on this thing all the time. But this particular caudicle is pretty smooth. It's not very grainy. And so I just try to get this on this particular stone with water or soap to you know, the 8 to 10K range. And then when I move to my next stone, which is usually my Thuringian, I would have to say that that's going to put me somewhere in the 10 to 12K range. And if I move to my arc or a JNat or whatever the case may be, you know, it just goes up from there. But and when it comes to natural stones, there really is no grit rating. It's kind of more of a roundabout number, you know, like what range can that stone get you in. And like I said, it really just depends on what you're doing on the stone, you know. If I'm setting a bevel with this, I'm going to do a nice heavy slurry, do lots of you know, short strokes, half strokes, circles, you know, whatever, and wait until I see that bevel set, you know. Once that bevel set looks like it's nice and clean and crisp all the way across, because I'm at a point, you know, I used to go straight to my microscope, you know, I do X amount of passes and I go look at the microscope, and then I do more passes, look under the microscope. Now I don't do that. I more or less go until I feel like the razor looks good and I can see that my bevel looks even across. And I usually just use the microphone at this point, microscope at this point, just to check, to make sure that I feel like that particular step in the honing process is finished and it's time to move on. So instead of seeing exactly what's going on with the microscope, I just more use it as a visual cue to let myself know, you know, if a particular step is good, because you're honestly going to get better results on figuring something out, like for example the sharpness, by using a packing peanut. You know, I mean, it's just going right into that packing peanut at this point. Like there's really no effort, so I know I'm getting pretty close. I'll run it over my hairs. You can hear it just catching all the hairs, you know, there's hair all over this thing. So I know that this razor is already much sharper than I had it yesterday. And that bevel is definitely more straightened out from taking Eric's advice and using the synthetics first, you know. As soon as I put it to the synthetics, you guys didn't really see that part, but when I put it on I actually semi-set the bevel on my 1200 Atoma, and when I felt like it felt smooth, I moved over to my 3000 Ninoa Advance, and as soon as I ran the first few passes, the undercut was, there was like a strip of dryness in here, and this was all wet. And I sat there and just did my half strokes back and forth until it had a nice even undercut all the way across. And I mean, I can see on this caudicle at this point, after going through those steps, that it's definitely straightened it out quite a bit. So when I'm doing the dollar cotton method, you know, I start with a heavy slurry. I start to dilute that slurry, keep working passes, and then once you go to water, you know, my average, based on Eric's advice, Sean's advice, because, you know, they've been doing this a lot longer than me, you know, it's more or less 100 passes on water. When I personally get to about the 50th or 60th pass, I lighten up my touch even more. And then once I come off this caudicle, everything I do after that is pretty much 2 hairs in air, just super light. You know, you're just trying to get that super fine finish on the edge of the blade and bring it over that 8K, because as soon as your edge, in my opinion, is over an 8K, putting too much pressure will actually start to reverse the process. You know, it'll start to work against you. So you definitely have to have a nice light touch once you go onto your finished passes. I mean, I've seen some guys white knuckle their honing, even in the finish, and you're just working against yourself, you know. Like right now, all I'm doing is guiding. I mean, I could practically let go and just push with my finger on the back of the spine. I'm barely putting any pressure. I'm letting the weight of the razor itself. And there's times where I actually lift. You know, when I really get into my finished passes, I'm actually almost lifting the weight of the razor so that it's just barely grazing the surface, you know. And I'm not trying to teach anyone anything here. I'm just telling you guys what I've experienced and what works for me, you know. And hopefully someone else can watch this and say, hey, I'm going to try that, and it works for them, you know. It's just all about having success, you know. I mean, I don't know if you just saw that or not, but it's like I'm barely touching it, and it's just popping right into that packing peanut. So that's my first telltale sign. As long as that's popping like that all the way across, that I'm pretty much good. I don't even know if I did 100 passes. I haven't been counting. I've been talking, but it just feels right. So I'm gonna move over to my Thuringian and see if I can't get this thing just a little sharper, and then I'll do some very light passes on my Water of Air probably. I've been kind of enjoying that particular stone for finish. It just puts a real comfortable edge on my razors. So you know, another thing I tried yesterday, this is my Thuringian, by the way. Another thing I did yesterday was I put a slurry on this Thuringian afterwards, and I usually don't do that. So I don't know if that backtracked me from doing all those water passes on my caudicle, but you know, like I said, this is all learning experience sometimes. So what I'm personally gonna do is stick to what I know, and usually when I come off those water passes with my caudicle and I come to the stone, I wet it, wipe off some of that water, throw a little bit of soap on there, and just do soap passes, because I know that it's already, you know, pinging some hairs right off my arm, no problem. I know that it's going into the packing peanut like butter, like a hot knife through butter, and so I feel like just going to water passes on this stone just give it that little bit of extra keenness that I personally like. Another thing about slate and Thuringian, this particular stone, it gives you a pretty comfortable edge, So, I mean, to go too crazy at this point, you don't want to undo progress, You don't want to undo work that you've already done. This process, I mean, some of these guys that do it, they can do this in 20 minutes. For me, I take my time with it, and if it takes me 40 minutes to an hour, so be it, It's all about getting results. Like I said, once I move to this stone, I mean, I am putting pretty much zero pressure. And if anything, I'm almost lifting the weight of the razor, Just supporting the blade, guiding the blade, and letting the stone just do the work. And now this is a thinner stone as well. So when I go to a stone like this, I'm very careful not to be too tippy in one direction because you don't want it to just run down the edge of the stone. I mean, that'll literally destroy all the work you've done. Put that little bit of soap on this stone. I've always kind of referred to this stone as my soapstone. And then if I go to my arc, I'll sometimes use oil, sometimes use soap. Just depends on what I feel like doing. I've also learned that when you come to these finished stones, you definitely want to keep the stone wet. It starts to dry out, and next thing you know, the blade, the apex could start to kind of bite into the stone a bit, and again, that'll undo your progress. But I can tell just based on how this was going yesterday, I was getting none of this undercut. Every natural stone that I brought this blade to, for some reason, it just didn't want to undercut evenly, and so I think I'm going to have success today. And again, that was due to Eric telling me to bring it back to the synthetics, Starting to dry out over here. I'm gonna keep that wet. You want a cushion between the blade and the stone on these finished passes, in my opinion. So again, if you can hear that, but popping hairs like crazy. And when I go to shave my arm, it's shaving it right off. I don't know if you can see all those hairs, but no, it's shaving just fine now. That was not happening yesterday, so thank you, Eric. I appreciate the advice once again. The Cajun Blade knows his stuff, I will say that. Sean knows his stuff. JPO knows his stuff. No Name Bear knows his stuff. You know, these guys have been doing it for a while. And if I didn't mention you, I apologize. I might have gotten hair on this, so I'm gonna rinse it off. And I would actually say that I'm at the point where I can switch over to the water of air and just give it some really, really light passes. And same thing, I can just do water if I want and go super light. Or I can do the same thing and add some. I can add some soap to this if I want. I think I'm actually going to do that. Just add a little bit of soap. Just so I have a little bit of cushion for these last passes, because I don't want to undo my progress. I've done it before and I've learned the hard way and had to rehone things, 2 and 3 times because I undid my progress and had to backtrack to one of my earlier stones. So with this stone now, I am super, light pressure, 2 hairs in air. I mean, I'm barely, and I'll slow down for these finished passes because, like I said, I don't want to run it off the edge of the stone and grind that apex. It's very easy to do. I mean, guys that have been doing this forever, I mean, they'll pick up a stone like this, put it in their hand, and just go back and forth with one hand, but I would have to say I'm not quite at that level yet, but I've definitely learned my fair share of tips and tricks and things to avoid and things that work, things that don't. And this water of air, same thing, just to give a rough idea of grit rating, this Thuringian would probably put me in, like I said, the 10 to 12K range. And I'd have to say this water of air, I would say, is going to put me anywhere between the 10 and 15K range. Now, if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. But I'm used to usually going, instead of going to the water of air, I usually go to my arc, and that arc will put me in the 15 to 20K range, no problem. For me, as long as the blade is over 12K, I know that it'll shave my face without issue. So even if these two will put me at around the 12K range, that's fine with me, The reason why I'll do some finished passes on this water of air is because, like I said, it will definitely give you a nice, comfortable edge. So, I mean, I'm saying I'll do probably 20, 30, maybe 40 passes on this thing and then pretty much call it done. And then once I strop this thing out, it'll be pretty goddamn sharp, so... Same thing, you don't want it to dry out. And I think that's going to be it, but we're going to do a little test again. So like right now, I might put it under the scope just to see what it looks like, but I really don't need to at this point, you know. You guys already saw me shave my arm with it, and I don't know if you can see the stubble right there, but it's taking it right off. So I would have to say that this guy is pretty much shave ready. Just needs to be stropped out. So just want to say thanks for joining me on that little adventure, because for me this razor has definitely been a little tricky, but thanks to Eric and Sean's fantastic advice once again, they allowed me to find some success. So I just want to say thanks for joining me, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.